Welcome to Mad About Money. I'm Maddie Alexander-Grout, and this is the podcast where we talk to interesting people all about their interesting money stories. I am joined by Michelle Norton-Hughes, who is the co-founder of FlyMama. She's also a women's health physiotherapist. God, that's a hard thing to say. And she's somebody who I've known for quite some time because she's quite local to me as well. So, Michelle, it's lovely to have you. Do you
Oh,
want to
thank
tell me a
you.
bit about you?
Yeah, so thank you for the intro. I'm based in Hampshire. I live in the sort of like Liphook and down the south area. So it's really lovely here. And I am a mum to my beautiful little girl who's now 5. I am as for work, I'm a women's health physiotherapist. I did start off very much in the musculoskeletal world, working in sports injuries, working with the military, and then I kind of really saw that there was something missing with women's health care, and particularly looking at women's pelvic health, thinking about hormones, perimenopause, pregnancy, postpartum, and that just sort of led me down a route. And that was even when I was working in the military, which was obviously very masculine dominant. I still found this like real calling to really help those women. So I do a bit of both, but that's predominantly what I do now. And I've set up a platform called FlyMama. So that's me. I'm very active. Well, I say I'm very active. I'm very active now, running after a 5-year-old. But I do like love getting outdoors. Yeah, and I'm always searching for the adventure. I'm always searching for the adventure, and I get itchy feet really quickly. I think you can
Nice.
probably relate to that, Maddie. I get itchy feet. I love to find the next thing. With me.
Absolutely. Like my feet are the itchiest, like all the time. I mean, actually, to be fair, I think I've really found my niche like recently, and I think like all of the stuff that I do now falls under the neurodivergent umbrella. And I
Mm,
haven't had itchy feet for a while. I don't want to do anything else. I love what I'm doing. I love the fact that I'm helping
signal's
people. I'm
gone.
still doing my money
Oh
stuff,
no.
but I'm also doing, the business stuff and the visibility stuff as well. So it keeps me on my toes, and everything is centered around something that I am super passionate about, which I think when you find something that you love, it just makes all the difference, doesn't it? And when you know you're helping people, especially when they've got big problems like the people that you work with, I think it's really nice. So
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you the question that I ask everybody when they come on this podcast. What is your money story?
Oh, I love this question. I've been listening to some of your podcasts and thinking, oh God, what do I say? What do I say when she asks me this question? And then I realize it's a story. It's a story we tell ourselves,
Yeah.
right? And literally, if you ask me on a different day, you might get a slightly different story. It's a story, well, how I'm feeling. Am I feeling a bit more in victim mode? Am I feeling really inspired? Like, is that story? But you've asked me today, so I don't know what's going to come out, Maddie. I don't know what's going to come out,
let's
but I'll give it a go.
let's just see. It's exciting.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I grew up with entrepreneurs as parents. Really, all three, I would say 3 or 4 of my parents, because of my parents got divorced when I was younger, and they were all entrepreneurs in different fields, but always really like
Yeah.
creative and doing different things. And I found that very inspiring to watch, but also very scary. And I suppose possibly a little bit like lacked that security sometimes. Sometimes we would be high flying it, and other times we'd be scrumpling for potatoes and eating spam out of a can, and literally would go from a ski resort to a caravan, and it would be very sort of different. And I'm very lucky and privileged that I have had that diversity in my upbringing, but also it
Yeah.
probably led me to seek a bit of security when I first started my career, which probably led me down the route of picking a physiotherapy career. And I met my husband, and he's in the military, very much secure, pension, knows his career progressions and everything else, and that felt really good for a while. And I think growing up, I money there was often, it could sometimes be like a topic of arguments, and a topic of worry, particularly when my parents got divorced and things. And I suppose it was something that I wanted to ensure that I had the security and the safety, I guess, first. But then, like I mentioned before, I get really itchy fit, and I think there was an entrepreneur in my genes that wanted to go out and do something different. And it was very much the birth of my little one. That I know this sounds really corny, but it was an awakening moment for me. And I had my little girl, and I just felt like I'm now a mother, and I can look at my mother and be inspired by her, but also feel a lot of her pain and her success and then her sadness. And I wanted something for my little one as well. And I wanted to make
Yeah.
sure that I was building a legacy for her, making sure she felt really safe and secure, but um, but also wasn't afraid to follow her dreams and go out there and do different things. And so when I had her, I was working for the military, and I was working my way up, and I absolutely loved my work. But I felt a little bit more torn between going to work, having to get wraparound care because I was a civil servant for the MOD, and which basically means that I'm not in the military, but I work for them. Whereas my husband
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
is in the military, and it meant that he was away deployed, and I was basically looking after my daughter, but also trying to still keep going with my career as the clinical lead for the department and for the area. And I just felt really torn. And I've had
Mm.
people coming in to get my daughter out of bed for me, and I was only working at this stage 3 days a week for the military, and then I was working for myself part time. But there would be the childminder would come in, would get her out of bed, get her to nursery, take her all day at nursery. She was also the lady from nursery, and then bring her home, feed her, get her, and I would just about get there for bath time. And I just thought, this is not what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I I went into lockdown, and I'm very grateful that I did have the security of my job during lockdown, and they were very understanding because my husband was away. That I got to spend a lot of time at home and a lot of time reflecting on what it was that I wanted. A lot of time with my little one, and I realised that pull of a mother is so challenging. And it's interesting that we're having this conversation today because you feel this pull that you want to show your daughter, your career and that your success and that, you can be that thriving businesswoman, but equally you want to be there at home to do the pickups
Yeah.
and the drop-offs and do that. And I felt this really torn. And it's so interesting that we're having this conversation today because you won't believe what she said to me this morning. And I'll tell you what, it went under my skin. She's obviously 5 now. And she said to me, I said, what do you want to do then? Because I can't remember how the conversation came up, but it came up about, she said, I don't want to go to school, mummy. I don't think I want to do school 5 days a week. And I said, so what do you think you're going to
Don't
want to
blame
do
her.
then? Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I completely resonated with her then. I was like, yeah, fair one. And I said, well, what do you think you're going to want to do? She goes, well, I think I'm going to work hard like daddy. And my blood went, like daddy?
Ooh.
And I thought, well, I don't want to think that he doesn't work hard, because clearly he does. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm giving you as well. And I thought to myself, but if she'd have said, but mummy, you're always at work. I don't want, why you, she says to me sometimes, mummy, why do you have to go to work? Why are you always at work? And that really gripes me as well.
Oh,
And then she
yeah.
goes, and then she says, but, but daddy works hard. And I'm like, hello, what about me? And so it's,
We thought the opposite in our house, like completely the opposite. So
have you?
my daughter sees me work because I work from home and I do the school runs and the pickups and stuff. She sees me as being the one that works. And she has just asked me to buy her a desk, and she's made a laptop out of cardboard so she can be like mummy. And I'm like, oh God, that's
Oh,
bad.
that's so
But
sweet though.
she sees she's always like, well, daddy just works away, and she doesn't. I don't even think she knows what he does. Like, I just don't think she cares. She's just like, nope, mummy works this. Mummy does mad about money. She doesn't really know what it is, but like she knows that I work. So it's interesting.
Oh, how old is your daughter again?
She's 5 as well.
Is she?
They're very
Yeah, I mean,
perceptive at that age, aren't they?
they are. They do. They pick up on so much, and it's interesting what they perceive. Because obviously my husband goes away to work. In a lot of the time, and so she sort of sees that he goes away to work, and I guess in the evenings when she asks me where he is, I say, oh, he's at work. But he's not. He's probably sitting on the sofa watching Netflix. But he was at work, and he's away for work. So it's interesting how they pick that up.
Yeah, we have
And
the same actually. Yeah, because my husband's a landscape. Well, he's not a landscape gardener anymore. Actually, he's a kitchen gardener. He grows fruit and vegetables for quite a big estate, and sometimes he has to go and stay over. It is work technically. He's being paid to stay over, but he doesn't really do any work in the evenings. He just sits and watches telly. So yeah, like lazy, getting paid for nothing. Oh, I want
well,
that job.
yeah, I just the load on the I call the mother, but sometimes it's the default parent, the parent that does a lot of the pickups and the drop-offs, and that sort of maternal, often mothering load, um, is is a real juggle, and it's something that I still struggle a little bit to get right, because I want to be earning, financially independent. I want to be present. I also want to be hugely successful with what I do in work and business, and I want to inspire other women to do and be successful in what they're
Yeah,
doing. So it's a yeah, I guess
absolutely.
it's a journey. It's a journey.
Have you found, it's a bit of a personal question here, but have you found that your parents divorcing when you were younger, has that made you more protective over your money? Like how does it work with you and your husband?
Yes, I'm sure it does. Very much so. I think
Because
it was
just
often.
just as an example, so my parents did as well. So my parents got divorced when I was 15, and it was quite traumatic for me, to be honest. Like lots of stuff happened, but I saw my mum really struggle because my she was actually working for my dad when they got divorced. So she ended up with no job, with no money, and she really struggled. And we had to sell our house, and it was all quite traumatic. But I vowed that I would never rely on a man for money. So me and my husband have
Mm,
completely separate finances. We do things together. So like I look after the bills and the mortgage and stuff, and he just transfers me the money. So we do it. We still split it 50-50. But I am very much in control of my own money. He never asks me how much I've got. I never ask him how much we've got. If he needs money, I give it to him. If I need money, he gives it to me. We support each other, but we have completely separate finances. And people find that weird. But I think it's just your way of, like, it's my way of protecting myself in case of an emergency. I don't think I'm going to split up with him. I hope I'm never going to split up with him. But if I did, at least I'd know I'd be independent.
yeah, yeah. My mum, she's an incredibly inspiring and intelligent, and I would say resilient woman. But she has lived a bit of a roller coaster, and you often look up to your role models in your life, and in one ways you want to be them, in another ways you really want to learn
Mm,
from their lessons as well. And
yeah.
yeah, so my parents split up when I think I was about 11. And actually, ironically, I became quite unwell around that time, and possibly, it maybe was a lot of the stress and the trauma of it. We will never know, but it does make a lot of sense. I was quite unwell, and I remember looking at my mum, who always was really into her horses, and we had a beautiful house growing up. And then that was obviously split in the divorce. And my stepdad came along, and he was also an entrepreneur and did loads of different things. And I remember watching sort of the way that everybody interacted, and those big highs, and then sometimes those big dips. And the conversations between my parents was often about money. And it was,
Yeah.
and it was really difficult, because um, it felt like they were fighting about me, but it was about paying for things for us as children, and particularly,
Yeah.
like, I was very fortunate that I went to a private school, but it was a constant battle between my parents about money. And they did an incredible job, and they did their best, but it wasn't. I was very aware of it. I was very aware of it all the
Mm.
time, and I think that does shape you. And then I think
It does, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think like, and then sadly my stepdad passed away when I was 18, and my mum had lots of different investments and things, and they put it into one big project, which sadly didn't come to fruition. Fruition, is that the right word? And
Yeah.
so my mum went again from having a lot to then not having very much, and I just thought, oh God, when the men have left her in her life, not through her own fault of her own, through various reasons, it's been really difficult for her, and
Mm,
I don't want that to be my story. And she's
yeah.
been so good at educating me and inspiring me to have the confidence in myself to know that I can do things on my own. Um, and yeah, but at the same time, I think that the security issue of finances is really important. Um, uh, but I was saying that, and I'm like, but I don't really know. I'm not sure what my pension is now. Don't really know what's going on right now, and I'm living in the moment now, and I'm enjoying the excitement of it right now. But yeah, it's it definitely it does shape you. It definitely shapes you.
It does, yeah. So tell me a bit about your business.
So, FlyMama, we set it up and we built it and we thought the idea up when we were in lockdown. So when I was in the thick of motherhood, she would have been 18 months when we went into lockdown, I think it would have been. And I was talking to my best friend at the time, who was at the other end of the country, and we were talking about our different experiences of motherhood and how we were juggling the whole thing. And obviously, with my
Mm,
career focused a lot on women's health, I was thinking as well about how women heal and recover post birth, and how sometimes that toxic world of body bouncing back and getting your abs back and all of this, and it found it really frustrating. And I was chatting to Kelly, who's my business partner in FlyMama, and she was talking about her experience of birth, and actually she had quite a traumatic birth, which she's very open about, and
mm,
how that had shaped her experiences in those early years. Well, she was only a year postpartum, I think, when we went into lockdown, and she had her thriving, successful business of a yoga studio and festivals beforehand. And then it was like, and this and being torn as a mother as to what you do. And we read this incredible book actually called Mama Rising, which is from Amy Taylor Kabaz. And if you haven't read it, it's about that matrescence story. Have you heard of the word matrescence? Um,
literally, I had somebody on my podcast this morning talking about it. It might have
oh,
even,
really?
it was either this morning or yesterday. Yeah, weird.
What is
So
that?
she's yeah, yeah, that's really, really bizarre. Like who was it that was talking about it? Can't
So
even remember who it was.
matrescence is the word
Yeah.
that we often use to describe that transition into motherhood. So it's not just our
Yes.
physical body that changes; it's our whole world. It's that it's the social, economical changes. It's the fact that you're then your relationship with your partner potentially changes, relationship with your family,
Yeah.
the way you look
Yeah,
at
it
your
was
your
Alice
own journey.
Rose. It was Alice Rose.
Alice Rose.
Yeah, who was talking about it. Yeah.
I'm gonna look her up.
Yes,
Um,
and her episode will probably be before yours, so people will already be slightly aware of matrescence. But it was something that I was like, yes, I've heard of it, but I don't really know what it is. But it's
yeah,
like the way she explained it is, it's like adolescence, but for mums. Like it's the
yes.
hormonal changes and all the stuff that goes on when you. And I didn't even know that existed until this morning. So
Yeah, well, you've
interesting.
got you've got a word for
Yeah.
adolescence, you've got a word for menopause, and then it's the word for matrescence, for motherhood. And so we were learning about that. We were also in the thick of it with our own motherhood journeys, and then our careers as well, both complemented looking after mothers. So we went
Mm,
on to think about how we would best support ourselves and the community around us and our patient, and how we could scale that to help to support other mothers, because it's not just lockdown when women and mothers are potentially feeling isolated, feeling unsupported, struggling with changes in their health. It's also motherhood, right? So and
yeah.
motherhood can be quite a lonely time where sometimes you feel that you can't necessarily get out and gain that support. So lockdown showed us that actually we were able to provide a lot of the support that we would provide either each other as friends, as other mothers, as with wisdom, but also as clinicians, and how we would deliver our information that we maybe do one-to-one with a client in our clinic, and how we would then deliver that in such a way that hopefully we could reach anyone anywhere. And so the idea of FlyMama was born. And so FlyMama is an online platform that supports a mother's physical, mental, and emotional well-being through professionally led content. And we've got it started off with the two of us and our experience, and we're building this diverse team of healthcare professionals, holistic therapists that support mums, hopefully in the comfort of their own home or wherever they need it, with the support of their partners if their partners want to watch it with them. And we've got such a variety of content on there, from physical classes to energy, breathwork, meditation, to matrescence coaching. We've got matrescence coaches on there as well, motherhood
You should
coaches.
definitely speak to Alice. Definitely
I
speak to
will,
her.
yeah,
Like, that's the
please
sort of
do
thing that she
send some.
helps people with. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna look her up. That'd be amazing, Maddie. Yeah, so and I guess it was such a beautiful community in lockdown, because it was a live community as well. So we had members that were joining us regularly and most days for classes. But what we realised talking to our members was that everybody's motherhood journey is unique and different. And some of those mothers were experiencing quite traumatic experiences as well. And they were actually still reaching out and asking for our help. And we realised that it was important that we needed to help and support them specifically for them. So, for example, we had
Yes. Yeah.
mothers going through, they were joining us on a postpartum platform, but then they were experiencing miscarriage. At coincide, they would go for their second
Yeah.
pregnancy and then they maybe experience miscarriage, which sadly is so common, and yet not always spoken about and supported appropriately. And then there was women that were experiencing termination for medical reasons. We had a lady that sadly experienced a neonatal death, so stillbirth and neonatal death, and birth trauma, rainbow baby, and pregnancy after birth trauma. And it really came apparent to us that actually this was maybe more where our niche was. So although we have got a very thriving and supportive motherhood platform, we've also now developed these incredible trauma-informed platforms where we support an individual where they are. So should a mother have experienced a miscarriage or a termination for medical reason, or any of the other experiences that I just mentioned, birth trauma, etc., they are able to find a safe space with our programs where they can be guided by professionals, and they can have some exercise classes that are trauma informed, and hopefully they're safe and progressive as to where they are, but they are not triggering. Whereas a postpartum class normally maybe like mum and baby classes, and it might be very kind of energetic and very kind of talking about the mums, or talking about the babies, or and the mums might be moaning about their mothers-in-laws, and yet this mother is there without her baby. And so it's trying to create a safe space for everybody, so everybody can feel
Yes. Yeah.
relaxed and at home in the environment that they're in. And then we've got educational videos, like I do some videos on how to heal your pelvic floor following a birth, and
I'm doing them now. I'm like,
good. I can see your eyebrows going.
That's the thing. That's the thing. You can't do perfect floors without doing your eyebrows. It's weird. Like, and I feel like for anybody who's listening to this, every single woman will be doing them, because for me, I only do them when someone tells me to. I don't know if that's a neurodivergent thing, like whether or not more people think about it than I do. The only time I think about it is when I sneeze and I wet myself, and I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, that's happened. Like, that's never good.
Yeah.
But I had quite a bad birth experience with my daughter, and yeah, it's never been the same down there.
Oh, bless you. Yeah, it was I wanna ask you all about your birth story now. Feel free to share
Yeah,
anything,
well,
but
I mean,
yes.
so yeah, it was my so basically, like, a bit of a trigger warning here, because it's a bit of a horrible one.
We should
But
probably have done that at
my
the beginning.
daughter, Yeah, no, it's fine. But my daughter had a bit of a problem in when she was in the womb, where like she was rolling over. Like I had rib flare, which
Hmm.
basically, because I am hypermobile, one of my ribs popped out. And she was constantly rolling over where my rib was, and it was just so painful that I ended up in hospital for 6 weeks before she was born, and they wouldn't let me go home. And I had a lot of morphine, and they were like, "She'll be fine. She'll be fine." Well, she wasn't fine. She wasn't fine at all. I had an epidural, and the epidural didn't work. And my body, this was clearly my body going, "You don't need this epidural. She's in trouble. And if you have this epidural, she's not going to make it." So my body decided to reject the epidural, and it gave me a 50p piece sized numb bit on my leg, which was definitely not the area that I needed numbing. And by that point, it was too late for anything else. So I had no pain relief whatsoever. And I said to the midwife, "I'm pushing." She was like, "No, you're not. You're only 7 centimeters. You're not pushing." I was like, "I'm fucking pushing, mate." Like, I don't think I said it that nicely either. I was like, "Fuck off, I'm pushing." And I pushed a baby out at 7 centimeters, and that was not great. Not great. I had to have a lot of stitches. When she came out, she was cold, grey, floppy, unresponsive. The only thing I remember was the midwife saying to James, my husband, "Can you pull that cord behind you, the one that says emergency on it?" And like a million people ran out, took her off, and ran away. And all I'd seen was a cold, grey, dead baby in my mind. Like that was all I could see. Um, and they wouldn't let me. I didn't know where they'd taken her. Nobody told me anything. I was like hooked up to all these machines on the bed, and I was just like, my baby's died. Like I just like literally couldn't feel anything other than my baby had died. 10 minutes went past. Nobody told me anything. I was pretty much hysterical by this point, and they're going, "Do you want the injection for the placenta?" And I'm like, "Just fucking get it out! Like I don't care. Like whatever." Um, Gave birth to the most humongous placenta. Like I took pictures of it. It was like this, like the biggest thing. I think it actually hurt more giving birth to the placenta than it did to the baby.
Mm.
Um, they finally came back in and said she was okay, but she'd had the cord round her neck, and she was also distressed, and they hadn't picked up on it, and it was all very, very traumatic.
Mm.
I had nightmares about it. Like I had hypnotherapy, I had normal therapy, I had counselling, I had like birth afterthoughts, and it was horrible. Really horrible experience. But she is now a happy, healthy, thriving 5-year-old who draws all over her walls and irritates the living crap out of me. But at the time, I really genuinely lost her, and it was so. I honestly cannot imagine what people go through. Well, I can imagine what people go through when they know that their baby's died giving birth. It's horrific because I had that for 10 minutes, that feeling, and
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
like the worst feeling you could possibly have.
And your story is such an example about how it's not just our physical body that goes through it. You know, that emotional roller
Yeah,
coaster and that stress that you can feel in your body as a result of that. And there's
yeah.
some really interesting work, like the body keeps a score and stuff, and your body can sometimes hold that trauma that you've experienced and you felt.
I need to read that.
Yeah,
I keep thinking about it.
yeah, and like so for somebody like yourself that had gone through that, you know, the way that Kelly and I work is that Kelly very much thinks about how to support your nervous system through that and really
Mm,
supporting you with practical techniques. First of all, she explains how like the vagus nerve works and how we can support ourselves very much with that like fight, flight, and that stress response and the functional freeze and everything. And then so that you understand it in words that we can understand, and then also gives you practical skills and techniques so that when you feel that rising stress in that body, that in the throat, that aching in your stomach, that pain in your back, whatever it is, that somatic feeling that you're feeling, how can we then help to release that out of our bodies? And it may be with a simple grounding technique that she goes through. It may be with a breathing technique. It can be with a gentle movement, somatic movement. And then there's also journaling and prompts. And then I look at a little bit about how your body is physically healing from that as well. But I know from the work that I do that if we don't address your nervous system in, correspondingly alongside your healing of your physical body, we're not treating the whole picture, And so
No.
it's really important for me in my clinic when I see people is that I'm really addressing their nervous system as well. I'm really thinking about how to calm their stress response if they're feeling that anxiety. And I notice so much when I'm doing work on people's pelvic floors and their tummy, the story often comes out and the emotions
Yeah.
often come out as well. And it can be incredibly healing for people to have that sort of like release together and to take the clinical aspect of what we're doing and make it less clinical, make it more healing and holistic and kind. And I do, I'm a mummy MOT practitioner, so I work a lot with mums during pregnancy and then postpartum and do their mummy MOT health checks, which is postpartum health check that can be done 6 to 8 weeks postpartum, and it really looks at how your body is physically healing. And it's through all the work that I've done with that I've just realised that if somebody's had birth trauma, they can have physically the same amount of stitches or the same physical injury as another person, but if their birth was perceived in a very traumatic way compared to somebody that felt very much in control and that it went how they wanted it to and they didn't find it traumatic, but they both come out with a grade 2 pelvic floor tear, for example, perineum tear, they will their healing might be very different. And so I help to guide and to work and to support them through that. But FlyMama is that way of supporting people through that. So yeah, you from your experience, Maddie, then I would recommend the birth trauma bundle and the support bundle to help postpartum with that.
Thank you. No, that's really interesting. So Michelle, what's next for you guys then?
Oh, so much going on. So we are actually doing some amazing work with organisations at the moment. We're a direct consumer product in the fact that anybody listening to this can go onto our website and to gain access to the product straight away. It's there for them. But we want to make it even more accessible to more people. So we have started doing some trials with the NHS, which is super exciting. So that hopefully it will be more available and accessible for people. We would love it to be something that every woman and mother has the opportunity to have access to. So we are doing work with the Milk Bank up in Chester, working with Hampshire Hospital's bereavement services, and the bereavement service in Chester. We've also got the Children's Hospice, and we've got some other exciting trials that I probably can't say yet, but with other sort of government organisations as well, other than the NHS as well, and some corporate companies. So yeah, I'm hoping that we're going to, businesses that are really innovative and wanting to support their workforce in quite a diverse way. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to help support with maternity, paternity, and bereavement leave a little bit more as well. And then I'm hoping that the results of these trials, we're doing some incredible work with some outcome measures and some sort of surveys and questionnaires to see how people are using it and what benefit they're getting. And fingers crossed, more comes. And then from a clinic point of view, I love it. Yeah, I still work. It's funny, like, I think entrepreneurs, we often don't just do one thing, do we? So that's my business that I'm incredibly passionate about. But then day to day, I want to be in clinic treating clients as well. And I'm going to be running some nice retreats this year and next year as well. So that would be nice to be in the room with people again. Yeah.
Exciting stuff. So Michelle, how do people find you?
So you can
where are you online?
Yeah, I mean, you can find, if you search my name, Michelle Norton-Hughes, I come up on LinkedIn, or my FlyMama website is FLY Mama, spelled MAMA. So you can find us on Instagram. We've got 2 separate sites on Instagram. We've got our FlyMama one, and then our perinatal trauma and loss FlyMama support as well. Or you can find me personally, Michelle Physio. So yeah. And if you want to
Thank you.
see me, it'd be nice.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. It's really great to hear your story and the amazing work that you're doing to support women and mums, because there's a lot there that needs to be done. So well done. For
Thank
anybody
you.
who's listening to this podcast, you will be able to find everything about Michelle down in the show notes. If you are listening on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, please give us a follow, leave us a review. Reviews help us to push this podcast out to more people, so that we can help everybody as we're going along. If you haven't downloaded the Mad About Money app yet, please go and download it. It is completely free to download. Mad About Money official on TikTok, Maddie Talks Money on Instagram, and Maddie Alexander-Grout on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time.